ഈജിപ്തിലെ ഫറവോൻ്റെ കാലഘട്ടത്തിലെ ഒരു വില്ലേജ് ലൈഫാണ് ഇവിടെ ഒരുക്കി വച്ചിരിക്കുന്നത്. അത് നൈൽ നദിയുടെ ഒരു കൈവഴി വഴി യാത്ര ചെയ്ത് ബോട്ടിൽ നമ്മളെ കൊണ്ടുപോയാണ് കാണിക്കുന്നത്. ആ കാലഘട്ടത്തിലെ ഒരു വില്ലേജ് ലൈഫ് എങ്ങനെയായിരിക്കും എന്നാണ് ഈ യാത്രയിലൂടെ നമ്മൾക്ക് മനസ്സിലാക്കി തരുന്നത്. ഏകദേശം 4000 വർഷം ഒരു കാലഘട്ടമാണ്.
This was the inspiration of Dr. Hassan Regeb, who wanted to recreate an ancient Egyptian village on the banks of the Nile with as authentic an environment as possible. The village is surrounded by an extensive papyrus plantation, which not only reproduces the ancient surroundings, but also, along with the hundreds of trees which were planted around the village, provides an effective screen to isolate this glimpse of Egypt's ancient past from sights and sounds of modern life. The Pharaonic village covers an area of 32 acres, where people dressed in the clothes of ancient times perform their daily tasks in agriculture, industry, religious affairs and home life, using replicas of the tools and instruments of the ancient Egyptians. When Dr. Abdusalam Regeb took over the village from his father, he expanded it with 10 special museums, covering such varied subjects as mummification, ancient boats, the Coptic and Islamic periods, and the life of President Nasser. Dr. Abdusalam has made the Pharaonic village into an open book on Egyptian history and culture. You are about to take a voyage back in time to the land of the pharaohs 4,000 years ago. Between the trees is a statue of the Roman god Nilos, the personification of the river Nile. Nilos rests his arm on a sphinx, symbol of Egypt's great antiquity. Modern name actually comes from the name of the plant. Papyrus grew abundantly in Egypt in pharaonic times, especially in the marshes of the delta. But it gradually disappeared after new methods of manufacturing paper were brought to this country from China in about 1000 AD. The ancient art of making paper from papyrus was lost until about 30 years ago, when Dr. Hassan Regeb started this papyrus plantation and rediscovered the art after many years of research. Papyrus was also used for making boats, mats and sandals, and the lower part of the stem was sometimes eaten as a vegetable. The papyrus plant was the symbol of Lower Egypt, the northern part of the country, while the lotus flower was the symbol of Upper Egypt. As well as being prized for its perfume, the lotus symbolized resurrection to the ancient Egyptians, because the flower opens when the life-giving sun is out and closes when the sun sets. His wife are enjoying the fresh air in their garden pavilion. They are playing a game called Senet, a game for 2 players, a form of which is still played in Egypt today. Ploughing is the first operation in preparing the land for cultivation, and here we see the ploughman with his team and the simple wooden plough. After ploughing, the heavy clods of soil are broken up with a hoe, and then furrows are made with the broad-bladed mattock. The sower scatters the seed from a small bag or basket, and sheep follow the sower who press the seed into the tough soil with their feet. Beside the houses in the background are pigeon towers. The Egyptians kept pigeons for food, and they were used for carrying messages, especially for the army. The fields are irrigated by means of the shadoof, which works like a balance, with a bucket at one end of a long pole and a heavy stone as a counterweight. Shadoofs are still sometimes used in the Egyptian countryside. When the grain is harvested, the sheaves are carried to the threshing floor in a net bag hung on a long pole. When a thick layer of grain has been spread on the circular floor, oxen or cows are driven round to break up the ears of grain with their heavy feet. The next process is winnowing, when the grain is tossed up into the air so that the lighter chaff or husk will blow away on the wind. The grain is then taken to be stored in the silos. The scribe makes a careful record of all the grain which is being stored. This was important for taxation purposes, as there was no money in Egypt in pharaonic times. Honey was used for sweetening by the ancient Egyptians, as sugarcane was not grown in Egypt in those days. Beehives were made of pottery tubes piled up in rows, and in some parts of the country, beehives are still made this way today. The River Nile was the main highway of communication in pharaonic times, so boat building was an important industry. Small boats were made of bundles of papyrus tied together with ropes. Such boats were used for short journeys and for fishing or hunting trips. Larger boats were made of wood, usually cedar wood imported from Lebanon. Wooden boats were pegged together with dowels and sewn together with ropes, as can be seen in the cross-section on the bank. When the boat was put into the water, the wood expanded and the rope shrank, so the boat became completely watertight. A royal boat of this type can be seen in the museum beside the Great Pyramid of King Cheops at Giza. The palm tree was a valuable resource for the Egyptians. The trunk was used in house building, and the branches provided fronds for making mats and baskets, while furniture and boxes were made from the ribs. The boxes were used for storage and as cages for small animals and birds. The Egyptians today still use the various parts of the palm tree for the same purposes. There were many different kinds of fish in the Nile and its canals which made good food, and fishing was also popular as a sport. One method of fishing can be seen here, where a net is stretched between two boats, and the fisherman hits the water with a stick to frighten the fish into the net. Let's see if he's been lucky today.
പിന്നാലെ ഇതാണ് ഈജിപ്ത് പിന്നാലെ
Next, there are demonstrations of some industries and crafts, the first of which is brickmaking. The material used is the Nile mud, which is mixed with water and chopped straw into a thick paste. This paste is put into a wooden mould, and the bricks are then simply left to dry in the sun. As there is little heavy rain in Egypt, these mud bricks can last for centuries. The houses of the ancient Egyptians, even the palaces of the pharaohs, were constructed of sun-dried mud brick. The roof was made of split palm trunks covered with branches. The building was covered with a thick layer of mud, which
നല്ല വീഡിയോകൾ ലഭിക്കുന്നതിന് ചാനൽ സബ്സ്ക്രൈബ് ചെയ്യുക, ലൈക്ക് ചെയ്യുക, ഷെയർ ചെയ്യുക, കമൻറ്റ് ചെയ്യുക.